So it's easy to forget when you work, like I'm a back-end developer mostly, except now I'm playing with Flutter, working with Flutter seriously. And then some people are just front-end and people get really kind of, like stovepiped into what they're working with. So this talk is really about, hey, I've got an existing web app and I want to portal Flutter into it. And how does that work? And we're going to talk a little bit about tokens and keys and fetching content and that kind of thing. And so we're going to start in the upper left corner and I'm going to scroll through this. And I'm just going to walk through a user transaction and talk about how it works. So the user navigates to the site, they request the static site, and they get some static CDN, and it gives them back some web page in their browser. That's up here in the first box. And then they decide they're actually going to authenticate in and log in so that they can buy something like a commerce site or a loan site, where I used to work on some stuff. And so what they're going to do is they're going to authenticate that token, authenticate to a token service, and they're going to get back a security token. Right? So all they've done so far is gone and authenticated, and there's probably an app in there on the authentication, and I dropped it because I didn't want to take any time with it. And so now they're going to navigate off of this authentication screen and off the static site and into an app, right? And so what happens is we go to an app CDN here, and in this case, green is the current app, maybe React, and the blue is going to be our new Flutter module that's in that. And so we go and get the web app from the CDN and we get an app package back, and then that puts us in the bottom frame on this screen right now that's a full screen, and the user's basically goes to initiate a session. You know what, let me scroll this one up a little farther. So at this point they've got the green app, the React app loaded, and they go to initiate a session in an application. And so they've downloaded the content from this static site, they've got their authentication key, and so they make some submission to the API server through the app, and that gives some service result back, and along with maybe a session key, right? So they've authenticated in, they've got a security key at this point, they've downloaded the app from the content site. We don't normally think of it as an app, we think of it as a set of web pages, but it's really an application. And then they make a call to an API service to initiate a conversation like, hey, I'm doing a loan application. I've decided to shop for something here, and now I'm clicking around in that, or I'm going to my cart, whatever it is. And so at this point, what I've got is this box up, the top full box is I've got a session started, I've got a web app loaded, I've got a security key, I've got a session key that's used maybe on the server side actually, so that they can do all kinds of tracking and know what I've done. And if we argue about what I did, they can use the session logs for that because it's visibility, right? So we've got two keys at this point. And then they advance through the API, through the application, taking some action, and that calls an API. And every time they call the API, they post some JSON to it, maybe, and they pass the security key, the gray key, and they pass the session key. So that when the security key is probably a token, and they pass a session key, so they've got two identifiers. And it's possible if they're in the middle of a sub-transaction or something, they may actually have a security key and a session key and a conversation key for the actual transaction they're in. So the security key represents their login, the session key represents them being in this application, and the conversation ID represents what they're currently doing. And they can advance through that where it says advanced here in the middle, and then they get to some function like the shopping, like the checkout, or maybe it's the review section or something else. And we've decided that module is migrating to Flutter. And so it's an area of the screen that's asynchronously populated, or when we navigated to it, now we populate it and we take action in it. So what actually happens, we go back to the CDN and we download the application. You notice I don't show the keys here because typically these applications are public in some way. They can be locked by keys. I've done that before, but the end result is that code's not secure, right? Because once it's on the browser, it's not secure. So if we go and get the web app, now we've downloaded in this case, a Flutter application. We've still got our session key and our security token, and so we can advance into this second workflow, and you can see that the browser in this case is a light green. Why is it a light green? Because we actually are sitting inside the React portal. In the React app, we actually have this Flutter module that's running, and we can advance through that. When we get done with that Flutter section, what will happen is we will leave that screen and we will end up back in the React app again. The React app would still be there, but now the React piece would be the only one because we closed out the conversation we had on the Flutter side, and now we can use the session key and the security key to still navigate around in the React app, and we might repeat that process ending up in some module that was in Flutter. That Flutter module will be portaled into the React app in a viewport, basically, and whatever minimum amount of keys will get transferred back and forth so that the backend system know that it's the same person in the same login in a conversation that was started. And that's it. That's really what it's all about. And I'll post this diagram on my blog so people can look at it. Have a great day.